All right, cool. So thanks everyone for getting here early or on time. That is amazing. And yeah, we're really overwhelmed by the response and how many people signed up. So yeah, thanks so much. We basically have this slotted in for an hour. As I said in the invite, that we're going to stick around. We'll keep it open for an extra half hour for people who want to like catch up or follow up. But anyone can go after the first hour, including the panelists. But yeah, thank you. So yeah, as you know, this is the first, maybe there'll be more, who knows, Accessible Skateparks webinar. And it's co-hosted by the Goodpush Alliance and Drop-In and SEHstern organizations. So my name's Rhiannon, and I'm the manager of the Goodpush Alliance, which is a program by Skateistan to support social skateboarding projects worldwide and help them share their knowledge with each other. And my co-hosts today are Linda and Miriam. So Linda works with Drop-In, which is a Berlin-based nonprofit organization that uses skateboarding, WCMX, which is wheelchair motocross, for those of you who don't know, and other activities to support young people. And Linda also works with SEHstern, which is another Berlin-based nonprofit, and that supports people with disabilities in their daily life and runs a program, an inclusive skateboarding program called Berlin on Board. And Miriam, who's here helping out, she is also involved with Berlin on Board with Linda and runs art projects with kids from different backgrounds. So that's us. And for the panelists, we're like stoked that we have 6 amazing people. We can't believe it. I'll just give a little overview on everybody before we get into things. So Lisa Jacob is the, she's building skate parks all around the world. So both professionally and as a volunteer with lots of different social skateboarding projects. And she also supports skateboarding nonprofits through her own organization called Forever Playground. And she's joining us today actually from Amman, Jordan, where she's building a new skate park, Seven Hills. So welcome, Lisa. And then the other panelists we have, so we have David Lebuser. Actually, I'm not sure if I said that correctly. If not.
Lebuser.
Lebuser? Okay, nice. I gave it a French tinge. So he's a WCMX pro from Hamburg, Germany, and he competes internationally. Also through his Sit and Skate project, he's running workshops all over the country, which teach kids how to use skate parks in a wheelchair. And David's also advising skate park builders about accessibility. Then we have Lily Rice, who has awesome pink hair, and she's a WCMX pro from the UK and the first European woman to do a backflip in a wheelchair, which is super cool. And she's also the women's WCMX world champion from 2019. And she's worked to develop the first WCMX wheelchair in the UK with Roma Sport. Then we have Dan Mancina, who's a blind skater and advocate for adaptive skate parks in the US. And he began losing his vision when he was in his 20s, but he's kept skating and he's now sponsored by Real Skateboards. And Dan's also working with Real on the development of an adaptive skate park, which is really exciting. We'll hear about that hopefully a bit today. And then we have Bilal Mirbatzai, who's the first adaptive skateboarder in Afghanistan. And he was previously an adaptive skateboard coach and educator with Skateistan in Kabul. He's also a member of the Afghanistan national wheelchair basketball team, and he's joining us from Kabul today. Thanks, Bilal.
Yeah, thank you.
And finally, we have Mandy Young, who's the CEO of Adrenaline Alley Skate Park in the UK. So she founded the skate park in 2002 together with her son, John, who passed away in 2010 after suffering for many years with a brain tumor. The skate park now is the largest action sports venue in Europe, and it has a focus on being accessible to all. So yeah, we're really excited to talk about how to make skate parks more accessible today, especially with such an amazing group of panelists and also attendees, like really amazing list of attendees. And we know we're only going to be able to cover so much because we only have an hour, but we hope that this discussion can inspire some more future conversations about making skateboarding and skate parks as inclusive as possible. And to kick things off today, Linda is going to do a short presentation about a survey on making skate parks more accessible that we ran together last year. and then we'll get into questions for the panelists, and we hope to also have time for some of you to ask questions or maybe share what you're doing. And yeah, throughout, we definitely encourage you to use the chat box. You can talk about your own experience in this area. You can put in questions that you have. And yeah, that's all for me. So over to you, Linda.
Thank you. I will first of all start sharing my screen and hope it's working. Can you all see the presentation? Just thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, maybe first of all, I'm super nervous because of all of you, because I think you are the experts on the topic, not us. But anyways, last year, from May to October, we started a worldwide online survey with the key question, how to make skate parks more accessible for everyone. In the survey, we especially reached out to skaters and WCMXers with disabilities, and altogether 73 people all over the world took part. The participants, like I said before, were 73 people from 15 different countries. They were from 8 to 59 years old, and their years of skating was from just started to 53 years of skateboarding. 33 people stated to have a disability, and we had mostly WCMXs answered, so that's something that is also reflected in the results. We had different questions in the skate parks, and to get some order to it, we put them in different categories, and one was Skatepark Obstacles with the focus of WCMX. And the people told us the following problems. Right now, I'm just gonna read to you the first 3 points, because otherwise it's gonna be far too much, but you can have the presentation afterwards. So problems for WCMXs and skate parks were difficulties getting up ramps or out of bowls. Ramps and obstacles are too high, steep, or challenging, and rails are not accessible without a kicker. We also asked for solutions, and from the people doing WCMX, we had, it would be good to have high starting points to get speed in the skate park, banks leading up to the top of ramps or out of bowls, and the general accessibility in skate parks. There was one very interesting suggestion. The entire skate park sunk into the ground with concrete, so round with a low slope ramp to get back to ground level. So a little bit like in the mountains doing skiing. For us, the next category is skatepark obstacles, problems for people with visual restrictions. Problems are, especially obstacles are not long enough, not enough or bad light, too much distance between obstacles, being disorientated. Luckily, we also had some solutions that are tactile orientation in and around the skate park. An example you can see in the picture on the right. And then good would be also wider and longer obstacles, or a miniature skatepark replica, like a fingerboarding skatepark. We also asked the people about social aspects and how they feel in the skate parks. The problems we heard about was a lack of awareness about disabilities, especially when a disability is not visible, not always feeling included or welcome, for example, when there are too many people in the skate park, and a lack of beginners area. We didn't really get any solutions to improve social problems in the skate park, but later we asked people about their dream obstacles in the skate park, and almost everyone said they want a mixed skate park for all abilities. And that's something that maybe could improve social atmosphere in the skate park, but that's definitely something we need further research on also if maybe more information or rules could be helpful in a skate park. In the next step, we also asked about the environment of the skate park. A big problem mentioned was the lack of wheelchair access from road to the skate park, long travel to the skate park, and a lack of parking. Here we had some solutions like clean barrier-free toilets, wheelchair accessible pathways, and good public transport connection. In another question, we asked the people about their dream obstacles for skate park, and like I mentioned before, many people wish a mixed skate park for all abilities. I think that's something most of us have heard before. To be more concrete about obstacles, people wish a way to ride on, like you can see in the picture on the right, and they love roll-ins and also foam pits. Later on, we asked the people about their favorite skate parks, and we are going to show you the favorite three. First one is Fontana Skatepark South in California. Then there was Venice Beach Skate Park in California and Adrenaline Alley in the UK. Many, we are really looking forward to hear from you. In our last question, we asked the people to give a general statement about skateboarding. And I'm just going to read one to you that we liked a lot. Skateboarding has always amazed me due to the fact that it tears down barriers. No matter the age, race, gender, or sexual orientation, if you skate or ride, you become part of a family. When I discovered and got involved with WCMX, this thought evolved in a way I had never considered. It is both extremely humbling and inspiring to have children with disabilities skating alongside kids that are able-bodied, both having just as much fun as each other, sharing the same experience. Okay, so much about our survey. This is really just like first results, and we hope that a big conversation is just starting now.
Cool.
And I give back to Ryan. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
So yeah, so now we want to get to know the panelists a little bit more. So I guess I would start maybe with Mandy, because we just saw that her Adrenaline Alley Skate Park was one of the top 3 favorites from the survey. So Mandy, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit the story of how Adrenaline Alley came about, and also why accessibility is one of your skate park charity's values.
Yeah, hi everybody. I started Adrenaline Alley basically out of one night of antisocial behaviour towards my son. He'd spent 13 years in hospital with an undiagnosed brain tumour, but skateboarding had always been kind of his passion, although he couldn't physically do it a lot of the time. So when he was finally diagnosed and went through his chemo, etc., he got more into skateboarding. And being perfectly honest, I didn't know the difference between a skateboard and an ironing board. I knew nothing about the sports, didn't know what a BMX was, didn't know really what any of it was. So for me, it was about getting into it was about the social side, because John had spent all of his life in hospital, so he was very institutionalized. So it was about the social aspect and that kind of, health and well-being that comes along with that kind of attracted me to encourage him to kind of get out skateboarding and just meet friends, have some sort of social involvement just with peers and in society in general. Unfortunately, he became a target on one of the local streets, and only 6 months after he was out of hospital, he got beaten up really badly because he had a skateboard. That stopped him going out. It just obviously created more problems from a self-confidence point of view. So about a year later, I just I didn't know what else to do. And I just said, look, John, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get you out and doing something that you're passionate about? And he said to me, Mom, it's not just the skateboard, it's the inliners, the BMXs, they're all targeted everywhere they go because there's nowhere safe, basically. So it was just a matter of get the local kids together and let's see what is needed. So that was the birth of what we called Corby Wheels Project at the time, and that was nearly 20 years ago now. And from there, I got an outdoor site up at a speedway. So we attracted a lot of people, and I started to build on kind of values of it and the numbers, all of that, because obviously as a charity, which we'd registered as immediately, we had to secure funding to make this even sustainable, being outdoor and kind of seasonal as well. So when Rockingham Speedway was sold over, the owner at the time kind of really was 100% behind us and sold it to a local developer. And as a result of that, I was given an old chicken processing factory, which had been empty for about 5 or 6 years, and it was horrendous. I just kind of walked in and cried and thought, I can't do this. But I thought, well, what have I got to lose? So I just signed the lease. I had no funding, didn't really know how to sort of attract funding, and didn't really know about business. So cut a long story short, because it's a long story, sorry if I wrap it on a bit. Over the next 10 years, I was given another 2 buildings. So that was over a 6-acre site, and just basically became a more fluent funding writer. Altogether, I've raised about 8 million to do Adrenaline Alley, and we now own the site and the buildings. So we're an asset-backed charity now as well. But of course, underpinning all that was kind of the death of my son, who had worked at Adrenaline Alley. It's his vision that got me into this and all the things behind it. So obviously when he passed away, it was kind of, do I want to carry on? I've got to get my mojo back somehow. And that's been a tough fight, but we're now arguably probably one of the biggest in the world, which we've had, some big testimonials for. But we've still got a long way to go. We're still constantly developing, we're still constantly expanding, we're still constantly looking at our services and activities and just trying to, create the destination, because we're not locally dependent on our participants. It's a destination I've created. So, that's Adrenaline Alley, really. There's so much more I could say, but it's hard to get in kind of 2 or 3 minutes.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Mandy. It's a super inspiring story, and I would love to come skate your park sometime.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Cool. So now maybe we can hear a little bit from Bilal, who's joining from Kabul. So Bilal, could you maybe tell us a little bit about how you started skateboarding, and if there was any particular challenges that you faced being one of the first adapted skateboarders in Afghanistan?
Yeah, hi to all again. And this is my first online event that I'm joining, and I'm very excited about it. And first of all, I want to say thanks to Skateistan and skateboarding family, and that support me a lot. And my journey is that how I start skateboarding is very strange, and I had lots of challenges that I never told anyone in Skateistan. But today I want to say, first of all, whenever I joined skateboarding with my friends from Paralympic, so one day they decide that we will not go anymore to Skateistan, and they were laughing on me that you are sitting on the skateboarding, and it's very strange sport, and you will not get anything from it. But and even they give us a swear in Paralympic that if anyone join skateboarding, even they will not go to para games anymore. But with that difficult challenges I face, I told them and talk with my president of Paralympic that see the member of Paralympic are saying like this, if you go to Skateistan, you will lose your international games. Then I didn't hear to my friends' words, so I start skateboarding, and it was amazing, and I learned lots of things in Skateistan and skateboarding, and my favorite sport is also like skateboarding. and I love skateboarding. But now I miss a lot, and even I'm sometimes chat with my friends from Skateistan that I hope one day again I will make a class for a person with disability, and lots of my friends still contacting me that we want to start skateboarding, but inshallah I hope that one day we will start again.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Bilal. And some of you might have recognized him in the presentation. He was in a couple of the photos there.
Yeah.
From a few years ago. Great. So now I want to ask an introductory question, I guess, for Lisa Jacob. So yeah, you've been working on lots of different skate park projects all around the world. Is there like, has accessibility played a role in the build projects that you've been a part of? Something you're thinking about?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, accessibility is definitely something we think about in terms of making it the most accessible for the users at the same time. So we always try to consult the locals if there's already a skate scene, to understand their needs and if there is like special requirement. But yeah, I would say because for most social projects we build, it's often the first skate park in the country. So I would say to make it most accessible, we need to make it more streets and not just a ball. So there's like it can be used by the most users, but also we aim for small obstacles, because most of the time there's less confirmed skateboarders because it's the developing scene. So small mellow banks, small heights, and also for passive users, we try to make it more as a community space, also to gather like different kind of uses, and build also seats or benches, fountains, or make it accessible for everyone and not only skateboarders, I would say.
Cool, thanks. Just a quick maybe follow up, is there, you don't have to maybe name an example, but maybe you can think of an example of a build you were on that that was not so accessible or didn't take into account, and was there something you did to fix it or something? Like, was there an original design that you had to like change or last minute, or I don't know how these things work. I'm not involved in skate park construction, evidently.
Yeah. Are you speaking regarding disability or wheelchair accessibility, or
yeah,
just
I think accessibility, yeah, for people with disabilities, or also just in general, maybe just for ability levels. So like for beginner or advanced, or like if you're saying that it's maybe the only skate park in the country.
Yeah. Then we always try to make like at least a small ledge that is like 300 millimeter high, or like also we consider the space. The more space in between obstacles, the more people are going to be invited to use the space. But because if it's like not so much space and a lot of people that skate fast in the lines, it's not inviting like beginners into the space. So yeah, and we make changes on like there's always a basic design, but if we feel like we need to make changes to make it more accessible and more beginner friendly, we do.
Cool. Thanks, Lisa. So next up, Dan, we were really curious actually about this adaptive skate park that you have in the works with Actions Realized and Real Skateboards. So we're wondering what the status is on that, or any other adaptive skate park plans that you're working on.
Yeah, so there's kind of two projects I'm pushing towards. One is the more private park associated with like Keep Pushing nonprofit, and that's the one tied with Action Realized, and I believe there's a braille board behind me hanging up that really got pushed off from that Action Realized project, and having that braille board and all the funding going towards building an accessible skate park. And I just secured the land adjacent to my home. And then I have 2 plans drawn up of possible outcomes for the park. Now, next step I'm working on is teaming up with like a local architect here and figuring out all the codes and stuff I need to follow, and what's the biggest facility we can have on the land. So yeah, and the idea behind that is just growing up and then losing my vision and realizing there's not really any parks that have any kind of accessibility in mind. So excuse me, my nose is running. I have a bit of a cold, but yeah. And then my background as a educator in vision rehabilitation therapy. So working with visually impaired and blind people and getting them to be more independent and all these things, combining those 2 worlds. So to build this park on my land and then invite families with children who have visual impairments to stay with me for like an extended weekend and then skate, and then also teach them all the things I've learned as a VRT as well. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. About to do a big push for funding and all kinds of fun things like signed picture frames and photos with old canes I've skated with and stuff like this to raise money to go put towards the park. And then I'm also working, gentleman reached out from Florida to build the first public, fully accessible park here in the States. And that has working with New Line, actually, Skateparks, who's out of Canada. They've actually helped do the designs for my public park or my private park, as well as working towards kind of the larger scale one for Florida. And that is coming along. We have the ear of the local legislation and stuff like that. And they're definitely very interested. So kind of those are the 2 main projects we're working towards. And I mean, the parks, really, it's just about size of obstacles, getting to the park. A lot of things that were brought up from the survey that you guys did are all the main things that we're working towards. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. Amazing. That's interesting. I thought it was maybe New Line who was working on it, and they do
Yeah.
great stuff. They also have built skate parks for Skateistan.
Yeah.
So I think someone from New Line is here on the call. Great. Thanks, Dan. So next up, oh, Linda, do you want to do the next couple questions?
I don't care, I can take over. Yeah, so my next question goes to Lily. Again, I'm super stoked that you're here, and I know you are doing so much stuff in WCMX. But I'm interested about, there was something ongoing with Toyota in Italy.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I was contacted by Toyota, and they'd seen me campaigning to try and get WCMX and adaptive skateboarding into the Paralympics for 2028. And they really wanted to help me along with this journey. And I found we talked about Bunker Skate Park, which was already a skate park based in Rome that I visited a couple of times. And then after working together for a bit, they basically like remade their skate park and helped Bunker create an accessible skate park. It had a really big vert ramp, so for like the pros, and then there was also like lots of smaller stuff for beginners. Ilaria's on this call right now, and we both had a great time riding out there together. And then once we did that project and Bunker was up and running, I did a big campaign with Toyota Global they do like a big video every 2 years focusing on one athlete, and we did this big video with a $2 million budget, so it was massive, and me and my dad went over there and we weren't expecting it to be this big, and it was just such a crazy experience. we went to Kiev and it was snowing, and then we went straight to Rome where it was boiling hot. It's an amazing experience, and we're now continuing to work with them to create skate parks more accessible. And I'm also working with USA Skateboarding to get the Paralympics to get a WCMX and adaptive skate there, really.
Mandy, are you having your questions straight away?
Yeah, just with Lily obviously being involved more in the UK or around the WCMX, and it's something, you know, I've talked to Lily about in the past. From a facility perspective, one of the biggest issues we've got in the UK of trying to raise awareness and trying to get the right equipment in is that there is no formal organisation for WCMX. So if you try and put a funding application in to try and get this, and I've just been refused one because basically they don't know who WCMX are. It's just like, you know, BMX and skateboarding now in the Olympics, there's a lot more recognition, you know, the money's starting to pour in, all that sort of stuff. But because there's no formal organisation, it's not going to be taken seriously. Anybody can fill in an application form in saying, you know, we want to build a park that's got this, this and this, but without any structure to behind what you're asking the funding for, it's not going to happen. Not on a major scale in the UK. You know, we're a charity. We can't just pluck money out of the air and go and build something without getting the funding. And believe me, I'm one of the most passionate there is that wants to do that. And I've been putting funding applications in, but they're just not recognising it. So I just wonder, Lily, if, you know, in all the things that you've been doing, has anybody talked about this, anybody else, or is anybody doing this in the UK? Because, you know, it's formally adopted, I think, in the US as an organisation, but not in the UK.
Yeah, so obviously that's something we're working on, and WCMX is part of adaptive skateboarding, and that's how we've decided to go through with it with USA Skateboarding. So we're still kind of really in the early stages of getting it more of an international thing. And I just had notification that Oscar's raised a hand, and I think as he's the chairman of the Adaptive Skate Committee, I think he'd be great to answer your question a bit more.
Yeah, it's just about, you know, you can have it on an international level, but if you're applying for funding and you're going to raise all that awareness, you're not going to get it on an international level. It's got to be a local level. So it's kind of whether the UK sets something as an offshoot from the US skateboarding one or what. That's what I want to learn from this, is how in the UK can we help to do this and raise awareness and get, you know, more people with disabilities in the UK using skate parks.
I think, Mandy, you bring up a great point, and we have the similar issues here in the States, just because the sport, although, you know, it's been around, you know, for years, both adaptive skate and WCMX, unfortunately, because of the Olympic recognition and to go through these, you know, jump these hurdles of getting this type of funding from, you know, state or local countries and whatnot. Even in the US, there's no real recognized, there's no governing body that's recognized yet by, let's say, you know, the Olympic or the International Paralympic Committee yet. So the steps that we should be taking this year, whether you know, yourself and Lily and whoever else in UK want to begin congregating and coming up with that committee, those would be the proper steps right now, because unfortunately right now, I don't think in either countries right now, there's any recognized governing body that, you know, deals with only WCMX or adaptive skate, and that's one of the biggest.
Yeah, I don't think they so much look for necessarily a governing body, because none of these sports have had governing bodies up until a couple of years ago.
Right.
Obviously announced in the Olympics. I've tried to do it here, but it just didn't happen. It was really difficult to get people with disabilities to come onto a committee and obviously get their parents to kind of join that committee to sort of say, you know, I can help with it as a treasurer or a chair or whatever, because, you know, my child's got a disability and I've got that knowledge. It's really difficult. And I'm struggling to know how in the UK we can improve that.
Right now, I think for generally it's going to be we're gonna have to start from a grassroots level and really try to raise awareness, and then, you know, with, you know, unfortunately COVID halted and derailed a lot of things, obviously, because otherwise last year I think we would have, at least in the US, been able to, you know, to start working towards our steps. And then the whole goal and idea with the whole adaptive committee, and the reason Lily's one of the board members, is so that we can share and other countries can emulate what we've already been doing and meeting those benchmarks. But like as I said, COVID halted all that. And the goal for hopefully this year and next year is to begin those committees in the separate countries and, you know, keep going on the grassroots level and reach out to healthcare communities, people, companies like Toyota and so forth.
Yeah, because like for us in particular, we've actually got a warehouse on one of our buildings we haven't used yet. And we've got to pull the project together to put a disability or adaptive skateboarding park in there. And we had plans to put foam pits in the floor where they would be covered up for that progression from foam to, you know, we had all of those plans in place, and then we just can't get the funding for it because there's not the people behind it, you know, and it's now going to be a skateboard only. So it's like going from a passion of having to include people with disabilities at a skate park like Adrenaline Alley to then say, no, do you know what? We're going to have to make it skateboard only.
Maybe it's a good. I'm so sorry. Maybe here's a good point for me to interrupt, because that's something we are trying to do here right now. Like we don't want to build skate parks for people doing WCMX or for people who are blind. Excuse me, switch to German by accident. But like what we want to reach together with all of you is trying to have skate parks built that are usable for everyone.
I mean, ours is later. The thing is, with where we were building it, all we've got to do is take down a partition wall and it becomes part of everyday life at Adrenaline Alley.
Yeah,
that was the whole point of it. It wasn't a separate park because it's in the building that's already there. It was just a matter of, you know, allowing them to go somewhere safe and secure to learn without the intimidation of all the other riders going on. But that gradual progression out of their own area to get that confidence and everything into just what everybody else does, for me was you know, the value of it all. But it's been really difficult.
I would just ask for funding for a skate park and then build a adapted park.
I wish it was that simple.
I mean, well, if you've gotten the other parks built, I would do the same thing and then just design it completely for because either way, it's going to be skatable and rideable for an average person or anything.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be a skate park.
It doesn't work like that when you've got to evidence and feedback everything you do with funding that you secure.
Yeah.
Okay,
when you're talking at a large level, you can't pull the wool over their eyes. You've got to do the right thing.
I mean, I would say that's discrimination on a level. If a skate park is not accessible,
ours is accessible in every part of the park. It was an addition.
Right.
Okay, it's okay for you. I take over so a little bit, because like I know that funding is a big subject, but I also know, like, I live in Berlin and we have a lot of stuff going on with skateboarding, and there are skate parks built like maybe once a year or twice a year. And I think it would be super cool that every new skate park should be accessible for everyone. And I've been working together a lot with David, and I have a question for him. Because David, you are already active in counseling skate park projects. How do you find out about them, and how do you get involved?
Well, first, hello. I have Lisa with me here, since we're running Sit and Skate together. Thought it would be cool. Otherwise, she would have just logged on from another room. So, in case you wonder. Yeah, so actually, it's mostly that I hear from somebody that there is a skate park project. Of course, I'm involved in some different organizations, so I hear from them, or some skate park planners or cities asked me to help with the planning. But still, of course, there are a lot of skate park projects I don't know about, or where, for example, we had a skate park plan on Instagram, and I just recognized that there's no accessibility in the rendering, and I contacted the city, and they just didn't know about. So after I contacted them, they surprisingly found some money to solve the problem of the lack of accessibility. So I think what we have to do is to share the knowledge about that a skate park nowadays should be accessible. And in this case, it was even just the way to the skate park. So that's something for me should be a no-brainer, that you have to build always to the skate park for everybody. And then comes, of course, the part where you really can use the skate park with the wheelchair or with any other device. But yeah, so I think first step is we should let everybody know that there is a need, and then hopefully every skate park, if it's funded from somebody for disability or even just for skateboarders, it still should be accessible in the first place.
Yeah, and we've been talking about that before, that accessibility doesn't mean you are able to enter the skate park, but also that you are able to use it, right?
Yeah, but so what I think is that the first thing to enter the skate park is something we should now, 2021, that should be no question, but still I see a lot of skate park projects where that is a big problem. Even on new plannings I just saw lately, I'm scared that there are a lot of stairs in the skate park. Even, I don't know if they are in today, but the skate park project in San Diego, it was pretty new, funded from the skate park project, Tony Hawk Foundation earlier.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's pretty new, and I was shocked that, especially in the United States, where we have laws like ADA, there are stairs to enter the skate park, and you have no accessible way into the skate park. So that really shocked me. And in Germany, we don't even have any law that comes with the accessibility. So there's a long way to go.
That's
Okay.
actually, we have a hand up here from Alec Beck from the Skate Park Project. Do you want to?
Thank you. Hi, David, and thank you, pardon me, for jumping in here. It's an excellent point about, I think you're talking about Linda Vista Skate Park, the massive skate park that's full, but terribly inaccessible when it comes to not only the design itself, but just entering the park. And we even had one of the advocates who worked on that park who brought up the point to the city repeatedly that this is not acceptable. You know, how are they supposed to get into the park or ride some of these features? And it's an excellent point in bringing those types of things up. The advocate themselves bringing up this accessibility point is crucial. And like you said, this type of stuff should just be factored in to all pre-planning and all design factors. It seems to me, as I'm learning, and thank you for holding this seminar, it's fascinating, that traditional skate park design factors and accessibility factors are not mutually exclusive. They can very much advocated for at the same time pre-planning stages. And that's part of what might be helpful for anybody working on a public skate park project, is that as the stakeholders, it's up to you to tell the city what is correct and what isn't. And so adding that, and this is part of our charge, is updating all of the educational materials to ensure that there's a focus on this type of thing, a focus on not only the entrance in and out, and the Linda Vista, after a good solid bit of advocating from that person and a couple other people and our organization as well, they're putting in proper access, but it's a little bit late, right? It's several years late for that type of thing. So getting in front of these projects, if you're leading them yourselves, which a lot of you are, making sure that not only quality of the skate park and capacity is concerned in design, but the functionality and accessibility itself should just be those kind of hard lines for the advocates. We're not willing to do this unless these are a part of it. And so just change that people advocate for skate parks and not taking no for an answer from the city and from the skate park designers. I saw Tracy in the comments say that skate park builders and designers say that this costs more money to make an accessible skate park. It's just not true. They're thinking of it from a way it's an addition. We'll have to add this on to the normal skate park and it's going to cost more money. I call bull on that. You change the way you design the skate park from the ground up instead of adding onto it to be accessible. That would be, and again, I'm still learning about this, but we're going to change our materials to make sure that accessibility is a part of that type of thing, but we can't do it without y'all's help. So thank you for holding these types of things.
Yeah, thank you, Alec, because that's great to hear that you take this as a learn, and yeah, so really looking forward to our next visit, hopefully soon, that maybe we can enter it much easier because it's a great skate park. It's still a great skate park, and it's
from the bridge. We saw it from the bridge. Nice.
I went in with Robert, and it's a nice skate park, but you have a lot of stair climbing, and of course that's hard for beginners to go into. And of course we want to motivate more people in wheelchairs to go to the skate park, and so it should be a lot easier to get in.
Absolutely, agreed, 100%.
I totally agree with David too.
We had another vote, like a raising hand from Lars. Lars, your question is sorry.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm in the train, so it's a little bit difficult. But David, I think in Germany, if you build a skate park, and there will be official money from the country in it because of the UN Convention for the people with disability. So if you get money from the government, there must be you must build a skate park for everyone. So I think it's German right. You have other experience in that, and even I think in Europe it must be European right to build skate park like this. So that's really a problem.
Yes, it is. I don't want to get too much into that topic, but to answer your question is that the UN Convention for Disabilities, I'm not exactly sure what the English name is, but even it's approved by Germany for now over 10 years, it's still not a national law. Like I said, we don't have something like ADA in USA giving or having accessibility as a law in Germany. That's just not the case. So even if they build a restaurant, they don't need to be accessible. They don't need to have a toilet. So with skate parks, it's the same.
At least it's not enforced. So
Okay, I understand it if you do it in private, but if you get official money from the government, I thought it must be. But okay, I take it with me.
That's actually well, we have a related question, but first, because we have the panelists here just for the next 12 minutes, I just wanted to give some of them a chance to share, and then, like I said, we're going to leave the room open for an extra half an hour, so anyone that is free to stay, we can keep the discussion going. But I saw that Bilal and Lily both had their hands up, so Bilal, maybe you want to share something first?
Yeah, thank you. I want to share something about accessibility, especially in Afghanistan, that like offices, skate parks, restaurant, sport place, there is no accessibility for person with physical disability. So I'm talking about the skate park in Kabul. There should be some accessibility, like first of all, the way that we enter to the skate park, the floor problem, because most of us are using wheelchairs and crutches that we are walking with it. So the floor should be accessible for person with disability, and the toilets that we are using should have accessibility toilets, and also the washing room. And the other thing that clothes changing room should also have accessibility for in skate parks. Because most of us, when we are coming to do skateboarding, there is no place, accessibility place for changing the clothes. And also, one thing at the end I want to add is like a safety equipments for person physical disability. There should be a special safety equipments, like I'm using cast on my leg. When I do skateboarding, I take it out from my leg. So there should be something safety for my leg, because if I fall down in doing skateboarding, so maybe my legs will hurt. So these are some issues that I want to add on it.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Bilal. That's
Yeah,
really good points. And I think what you said, it's clear that it's about the actual skate park design, but also a lot of the environmental stuff, like the facilities and things. So Lily, do you want to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back and mention when we were talking more about the actual skate park accessibility. There was recently a document that came out of GB Skateboarding about how skate parks should be built, and WCMX and adaptive skate was mentioned in that. I think that's a really important thing to notice. Obviously, it's not law like we were talking about to have this accessible, but it's really nice to know that Skateboarding GB have recognised our sport. Another thing I wanted to mention was I think it's really important that when we're building accessible skate parks, that we need to make sure there's still a challenge for the skating. If we were to just put ramps, small banks everywhere, it's great for the beginners, but for everyone, we want it to be a place where everyone can use the skate parks and just like have a barrier-free area to ride, but still have challenge. Like we said, obviously it's important to be able to get onto the rails, and having wider flat rails is easier for WCMX riders and that kind of thing. But I do think it's really important still to keep some of these big steep ramps, so there's more like challenge for everyone riding the park.
Yeah, totally. And I think that was kind of a question we had for any of the panelists that are interested to answer, but like, I guess a couple different parts, like, are there kind of essential elements that you think that every accessible skate park needs to have? Maybe that would be one question. And maybe related is, how do we make sure that skate parks are still like challenging and creative while being more accessible? Is there like a risk of, especially if it becomes law, do you see a potential risk of real standardization of skate parks, or is that not a thing? Maybe those are several questions, but whatever you want.
Especially because I've traveled all over the world riding, you learn all different things from different types of skate park. Obviously you have like street, park, bowl, but every skate park's built different. Each person who's building these skate parks or each company thinks differently. And I think that's really great. And it's a really special thing about our sport is that everywhere we go and train or ride is different, and you get to learn all different types, styles through meeting other people. For like, I forgot what I was saying now. I think it's really important just to like keep it so that you've got like the risk of still possibly falling, because that's like something that it keeps you to like and keeps you going, so you want to try and land that trick. And I think that's what originally skateboarding was all about. But I do think it's really important to keep like smaller stuff so that beginners but have it all in the area. And I know as like skate park designers will do their thing, and I think it's just more important if they can reach out to adaptive skaters and WCMX riders to have an input from them, so they know what they can do for each individual, people from different backgrounds, to make these skate parks more accessible.
Yeah, I think our approach with this park in Florida is, originally we started with designing a park and then trying to adapt that park, which is what most people do. And we kind of realized like we need to scratch that, and we're designing the park for vision impaired and for WCMX. and then not even worrying about whether this is how skatable this is for the average person, because the average skateboarder can skate anything, is going to have fun skating anything. And then secondly, I think it's just a cultural thing of educating people through meetings like this, through collaborations like the Skatepark Project, formerly the Tony Hawk Foundation, and making them aware of, oh, there are actual wheelchair WCMX, there are vision impaired skateboarders out there who want to participate. It is a growing sport, right? And that's what it comes down to, is to making that cultural shift, just like we had to do in our country back in the civil rights. People crawling up the Capitol building stairs and doing all these things just to make more noise and make that shift.
Yeah, definitely. I think as maybe a final question while we have the panelists here is, I don't know, is there already, like, what's already happening in terms of connecting on the topic of accessible and adaptive skate parks? And is there already some kind of like guideline or anything in the works, or do you know about something like this?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to add something on the topic before, because
Okay.
I think it's not that you should make the skate park designs more mellow or easier or less challenging. It's more you have to see how you can combine a design. So if you have a steep ramp, you should have a ramp in the back getting to this place so you can use the steep ramp easier. So that's something important. So that's just in case, because I heard on a lot of projects, people are scared that because of accessibility, they would have less challenging skate parks, but that's not the case. That's not what we want. So we, of course, want to have challenges as well. And so we just need to see how we can connect it.
In the trick, but not about getting on the obstacle itself.
Yeah. So that's something I wanted to add.
Absolutely. And then to speak on the question before, I mean, one of the main goals for my foundation is to figure out, I guess, lack of words to describe it, but to find a standardization of what can be looked at as far as accessibility, grades and ramps, the width and length of obstacles, lighting, colors of obstacles, sound, and all these things, to get an idea of what we can share with the rest of the park builders, and then continue my work as the advocate, and then as consulting for other park builders.
Yeah, definitely. I think
I could go on. I could talk for hours
yeah.
as far as obstacles and stuff like that.
Maybe if there are park builders or designers here, maybe in the chat, you could share what would be helpful for you to have, and we can collect those ideas. Like what would be useful for you as park builders and designers to help make skate parks more accessible. So that could be interesting, and we could put those inputs together. Yes, we're pretty much near the end. Does anyone have any? I feel like we're trying to cover a lot of stuff.
I think David is still
Tracy's trying for a while now.
Pardon?
David is still
Tracy. No,
Tracy. Tracy. Okay, Tracy. Tracy's waving. Okay, Tracy.
I know, right? Well, I finally figured out how to use the hand.
Nice.
The accessibility thing. Having been told that adding like a foot to a ledge cost this guy money, and I actually had scheduled this call to this person, but my issue is skate parks to me, because I can crawl, I like jumping, and some of these hubs or some of the ledges are made for skateboarders. Now, if they were a foot wider, the skate park would become accessible for me. And when I was told that this is going to, it's adding money to the design, it made me feel like a piece of dog pooty. And that's, and the reason I still skate, I'm 60 years old. and I'm out at the skate park and I try, well, pre-COVID, I was going everywhere I possibly could, letting people try my chair, because for me, this is about growing the sport. You know, it's not about the competition. It's about, you know, me feeling alive and just wanting people just to, you know, get into this. And for the most part, it's working or not. I don't, you know, the kids love it, but it's just that extra foot before I can fall off, or, you know, that extra 6 inches so I can jump off that hubba, or a little bit of a boost on that rail so I can, or, you know, just get some speed. I don't mind jumping vert. I don't mind crawling. The only rule I have, I need somewhere to crawl out of that bowl. I can hook my chair and pull myself up. Now, a lot of people can't do that. That's where you get that beginner area. So, you know, there's so many mixed things here. And Dan is just rocking it. You know, that's awesome. You know, with the Braille sort of skate park, that is like so killer. Love you, Dan.
Love you too.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy. Those are really good examples, and you're amazing. Wow. I hope I'm still shredding when I'm 60. Nice. We have Reese here's got their hand up. Do you want to share something, Reese? I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, sorry. Hey, guys. Just a question, really. I'm researching a PhD on skateboarding's inclusion into the Olympics. So I'm just a question to anyone, really, if anyone would mind saying just a bit about on the role of the Olympics pushing for adaptive skateboarding, WMX, all these kind of things. Because, you know, to me, it seems, like Oscar said earlier, kind of counterintuitive that skateboarding was introduced into the games without that happening at the same time. But, you know, it was interesting what Lily was saying earlier about pushing it for the 2028 games, that kind of thing. So yeah, just a open question really to anyone.
I think that, like I said, mentioned earlier, I think it's just unfortunately whatever bylaws, and because the Olympics is such, you know, longly founded thing and organization that, you know, they have their rules and their points to make. And like I mentioned, yeah, to me, I agree with you. It seems counterintuitive that, you know, that they didn't, you know, at least research or ask about if there was already a Paralympic component when skateboarding went to the application for the regular games. I think it's like kind of how we were talking about earlier, where it's going to be the advocate's job. It's going to be our job in order to show the Olympic committees why, you know, adaptive skateboarding needs to be included in the Paralympics. And, you know, this is what we've been doing since 2010, since 2015, you know, whatever date, and showing them the ranking, showing them the participation numbers, showing that there's even numbers between men and women. And then, you know, you have to have the 16 countries that have the same similar metrics and all that. So I think if we didn't have those huge, I don't want to call them huge hurdles, but if we didn't have those benchmarks to meet, I think it would easily be, you know, come to fruition that it could have gone to Paris 2024 instead of waiting for LA 2028. But I think that's more on the side of the Olympic jurisdiction, where they created all those loops and holes for us to jump through.
I can fill in some blanks there too. It's a great question. I think.
Gosh.
Hey, what's up, Dan?
Hey.
Rise, the IOC and the IPC are separate entities. So as much as they work together, they actually function completely separately. And that is what creates some of the disconnect between the sports that are in the games and what are in the Paralympics.
Yeah, I think it all ties in. All of this ties in to why it's not in there yet. It's the accessibility, and when you have that accessibility, when you have a park that's more accessible, it's just more riders. You're going to have more people, more participation, more contests. You know, easier for people to see that this is actually something that people do. I mean, skateboarding is a small sport in itself compared to most things, and most people, the average person thinks it's it's just very foreign to them. And then add the adaptive side to that too is an even smaller percentage of the population. But
yeah, when skateboarding doesn't even understand the need of accessibility for all skateboarders, it's nearly impossible for an institutional level like the Paralympics to understand that. But you know, our goal with this Olympic inclusion is to pull on these levers that we have access to now to raise awareness and to do good things for all skateboarders. So we're really excited to have a great group on our adaptive committee, and starting pushing towards building awareness and working towards the goal of getting skateboarding in LA 28, or getting adaptive skateboarding in WCMX in LA 28.
Yeah, I think you also have to consider that, like with the Olympic inclusion, skateboarding is going to become a household name, and that negative stigma or reputation it had of being for slackers and punks and, you know, kind of the outcast of society is going to change, and people are going to see that change is always, I mean, that notion of adaptive skateboarding has always been there as a positive influence as how skateboard, because everybody here has a common motif story of how skateboarding changed their life for the positive. So I think also you got to think of that from the Olympic side of like, oh, do we really want to add this sport that kind of seems to be mischievous and could, you know, put a bad image on ourselves as well?
Yeah, thanks. This is thanks for everyone who's chipping in here. I just want to quickly say, for anyone who has to go, we'll keep this going. For anyone who wants to stay, we'll be here. But for anyone who wants to go, we're gonna send out the recording and the slides and contact email list. So everyone shared whether they'd be down to share their email addresses. So we'll send that out after, so you can connect with each other. And also we'll be putting out actually a report about all the findings we had in our presentation, and we want to include some of the stuff from this discussion. So thanks for all these great ideas. And just quickly, would people be interested in like another webinar on this topic, maybe digging a bit deeper into certain things and more of a discussion format? Yeah, if anyone is interested.
Yes. For sure.
Yeah.
And am I able to make a suggestion for follow-up?
Yeah.
So I think we have so many experts around here and so many projects going on worldwide. And I think it would be cool for the next day just to have 3 people presenting what they are already doing in making skateparks more accessible, work together with cities, governments, whatever. And then leave half an hour up to 1 hour for discussion, questions, and making plans. Does it sound good for you?
Yeah, structured.
No, that's not
Well, I'm not saying
structured.
this
That
isn't.
is like low effort working for everyone.
Yeah.
All we need to do is find 3 people that want to present what they are doing for next time, and then find a date, and we have no problem hosting it another time.
Yeah, maybe people can just reach out to us after if they're interested to be a part, either speaking or attending. Cool. Yes, Kyle Dion from New Line, who's working on some of these projects, is interested. Okay, cool. We'll reach out to
Okay, so next step would be we will send an email so everyone gets the contacts and ask you about what you want for a follow-up.
Cool.
And thank you guys for doing that survey. That's a huge, a big step in adaptive skate parks, for sure. That's important.
Thank you, Dan. But for us, it's really just the first step. And like I said during the presentation, we had mostly answers from WCMXs. So we need a lot more of information. And I think David was raising his hands for hours. So sorry, David, up to you.
Not for hours, that's okay. No, but I just wanted to say I would wish that maybe we can, because I think we have over 60 people in here, and I know we have at so many adaptive skate events in the world, so many people. So I'm questioning why not more people answered the survey. So I would wish that we continue to get information from everybody and share this with all of the people today and even more. And also Ryan put some nice photos in the chat. So maybe also we can collect some very good examples of skate park designs to reach out to everybody and share it with everybody. And because when I talk about accessibility in skate parks, of course, I talk from a perspective of a wheelchair user, of a wheelchair skater, and I have to educate myself about the needs of Dan and other disabilities, of course, too. So I would be really, really happy if from all this great stuff we started now, yeah, we can make the most out of it by sharing everything with everybody.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you are suggesting we keep continuing collecting data from the survey, maybe adapt the questions a little bit to get more into the detail,
Yeah, we can
and
definitely
then
do that.
share with anyone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mandy has her hand up as well.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, I can't find the little hand right at the bottom of my screen. I've looked everywhere and I can't find it. That's why I'm, something that's just crossed my mind while obviously there's so many of you in this is if anybody's interested, especially obviously those guys that are in the UK, of actually formally starting a committee, and whether that means setting it up as a separate entity, email me, because I'd love, and we've got Zoom. You don't have to be in this country to consult. So anybody that thinks that they can help us to formalize a committee, and this isn't, under a governing body, because I think there's a long way to go before it gets anywhere near a governing body, and for all those different reasons we've talked about. But I think, we need something that's got some sort of substance that has got the consultation from people with disabilities. It's no good me, I have some with disabilities, but I haven't got a disability. So I need, UK skate parks. We need people with disabilities, whether in this country or in other countries. If you want to help me, I don't want to chair it. I'll say that now. Somebody else would have to do that as I have to do. But I would certainly, pull it together and act as the secretarial role to make sure it's kind of a sustainable committee in one form or another. And whether anybody wants to, hop on a Zoom and help us to do this, let me know. Obviously, Rihanna, if you can circulate my email to everybody, and if you get in contact, we can organize a separate Zoom or Teams, whatever, on that subject for people to sort of say, well, this is where we are. Where are we going with this? How do we raise awareness? How do we educate? How do we fund? How do we build? How do we, in the UK, that's the kind of organization I'm looking to do.
Cool. Yes, definitely we can share the panelist emails if you're all cool with that, for sure. And a great idea, Mandy. Before, I know there's quite a few people that want to share, but before we go into that, in case any of the panelists have to go, we just want to say a super massive thank you for joining. It was amazing having your inputs, and yeah, it's really, I think, got the conversation fired up. So thanks so much. We have I have a list of people, so I know a few people have asked if they can speak. So maybe Oscar, you could go first, and then I've got a few others I'll call on here.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to say that this was a great convo. And also to the last point, let's not forget about our colleagues that have the silent disabilities, like autism and all that. So, when we going in the planning of considering all this, there's a range of disabilities that I personally feel fall under the adaptive umbrella. So, just to, like as David's point, like I'm always trying to go and educate myself for wheelchair users or somebody with cerebral palsy, but I just always just want to advocate, and let's not forget about the people with those silent disabilities as well.
Yeah, I totally wasn't thinking about that either. And talking about designing this park in Florida, we came up with the idea of having like a safe space, right, where the sensory overload, or sensory for people with sensory sensitivity and stuff like that. Yeah, always more education to be had.
Cool. Yeah, really good point, Oscar.
Maybe I can just jump into here because we had some more questions prepared for today, and one of them was, can architecture help create a welcoming atmosphere in a skate park? And we have just so many people and so many experts that we are not able to discuss all the questions, but maybe it's a good idea to send them via mail to all of you. and everyone who has an idea can share it with all of us.
Yeah, yeah, we can send, yeah, I can maybe add it into a follow-up survey. That's a good idea, Linda. So we have Jason Martin wanted to say something. You couldn't find the raised hand thing. If you want to speak, Jason.
Hey guys, if everyone can hear me, just like give me a thumbs up. This internet's like really bad this side. Cool. So I'm coming from a country where skateboarding is brand new. Like I'm on the forefront of bringing it into the country. Not just like the town that I'm in, but the entire country as a whole. But prior, like listening to everyone's story, I feel like there's a lot that I've learned and how to go forward with that. But I just wanted to point out that like we had a half pipe or an attempt at a half pipe being made, which was literally some cinder blocks dug into the ground and cemented, which if anyone looks at, it's really bad for a skateboarder, it's really bad for anybody. But it was built by someone who has no experience because there is no skate culture or skate history or any skate building, but people are willing to sort of help move it forward. So my question is to a local park planner, to somebody who isn't a skate park builder, is there ways that we could develop sort of a basic skate park so that, let's say, for example, an actual skate park builder came to the town, we're like, well, we have this piece of land that we've already started skating on that they've just cemented as flat area that they can then build onto. Because I find that like in my case, I'm very lucky because there is a company who's now working with us to build our first skate park. But before that, we had nothing and no sort of access to information to help progress the people who were willing to help and just didn't know the knowledge in that environment. Yeah, that's my question.
Maybe that's a good question for Lisa. Sorry.
I think Lisa had to leave already, unfortunately. But we have Alex, skate park project, and Dan, either.
Yeah, Alec, go ahead.
I don't know where he went.
Did he leave? I mean, I would say on a basic level, if you have internet access, there's all kinds of plans and stuff like that for your basic skate obstacles. And if you have a plot of land with flat cement, I mean, you're light years ahead of most people. That's the funnest thing to build on. And just having fun with that, as far as just putting in a flat bar, putting in a ledge, trial and error and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I can reiterate that. It's, we've got 3 buildings that are joined together. So we've built corridors basically, and over the years they started to chip away and that. So one of the projects that we've done in the last year is we've actually ply floored every single area in the skate parks. So they're more accessible, and you know, we've got smaller ramps and we've got outdoor ramps coming off, you know, step sets and things like that. But it's made a real massive difference. There's nowhere in Adrenaline Alley that you go now that hasn't got a ply floor. Obviously makes it much more accessible, even, and it's not just about, you know, we've said, some of them have said it's not just about on the parks, it's in and around the parks in terms of accessibility as well. You know, we're fortunate enough to have all the disability toilets, and, you know, they're like going into a hotel, which is very nice, and, you know, I like that. But, yeah, it's thinking about the journey from the minute you go in the door, from the minute you leave, not just the parks. That's something we've been.
And in the US, I'm not how sure it is where you're at. A lot of parks have started from, you know, skateboarders finding just an empty parking lot and starting to build those little obstacles and building up from that. And then people recognizing, oh, there's actually a lot of people who do this. And that just gains interest, and that's led into the building of, I mean, probably hundreds of parks here in the US. So that's a great place to start, is just building it yourself, a DIY.
Yeah, just something real quick, if possible. That's pretty much what we have been doing. So like, I mean, for me, for example, I searched blueprints online and I built my own half pipe, which I used to teach kids. But sort of the what I was going at with that question as well is like, this is my first time hearing about people with disabilities. Now, my country has people with disabilities, but because it's so new here, there's a lot of new information that's come out of how to adapt this. For example, I'm diabetic. I'm like talking about people in wheelchairs. Now, my country as a whole has no way of taking care of these sort of people in a normal sense. Now, I would like to build a skate park, and I would like to have it sort of accessible to everybody from the get-go. But now, how do I sort of adapt that new information so that it, once our people look at it, it's like, well, that, because like, sorry, just to say quickly, like a common comment in Swaziland when someone sees me on my board is, oh, you're gonna break yourself. That's really bad. You'll be disabled. And it's like, okay, but here's a way of listening to the panels and what everyone's been saying in this, that this is a way to take that and turn it around and say, well, actually in this sport, we can help more than just people who have 2 feet and 2 hands. But it would need to be shown from, as you said, the accessibility of that park from the get-go, or from that piece of land or first ramp that we put up. So it's more of a, what information can I get from outside, I guess?
Yeah, I can give you a couple tips right now. As far as any ledge or any rail, the longer it is better for vision impairment. And then having a ramp up to the rail or up to the ledge so the wheelchair can ride onto is important. And then if you do have a ramp, you have a very low grade or a very mellow ramp that leads up to the deck of a ramp. So the person in a chair can actually access that. Yeah, but I don't think there's an actual, that's a great point. We should start, the more I learn, an actual one area where you can go to and look at how to make a park more accessible and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have Alec from the Skatepark Project. I'm wondering if you have, do you have like a standard design for people like in the situation like Jason, or?
It's a great question. So sorry, I was on mute before. It's like the first time I've used Zoom. Essentially, we are working on some standards for skate park design for a kind of a lower or a more accessible approach, not just in terms of accessibility for riding it, but in terms of creating the skate park. Traditionally, public skate park projects in the US take about 4 to 5 years of advocacy and fundraising, and that you lose a generation in that time. So we have several programs that we're forming right now that allow people to create a physical space in their community much more quickly, much like Jason is doing already. Before these materials come out, and if anybody is interested in helping influence these materials, please reach out to us. But essentially, there's the traditional route of advocating for a skate park with your local government and hiring a skate park firm and going through all those quality control measures and helping raise the funds. That's not going to go away. That's the municipal side of building a large neighborhood skate park that supports the community. However, like we said, that takes a lot of time, it's a lot of money, and there are accessible routes beneath that. So this sort of DIY community build, have a slab, there are 2 ways you can go about that: finding information online, which we're doing our best to help create more accessible pathways for that, or you can talk to a skate park firm and see if you can hire a project manager, just one person to come out and help teach things. Some firms are able to do that, some firms aren't. That's also a cost prohibitive route. So in the next 6 months, you'll see a more complete route in terms of what are the proper construction methods on a very small scale to help create skate space on a more rapid pace. But part of that is both people like Jason, who are actually already doing this, who are building things, who are understanding the trials and tribulations of learning how to build something out of concrete for the first time. And it's not easy, but it's something that is essential to bridging this gap, because if you have somebody who's willing to change the community, it shouldn't take 5 years and $500,000 to make that happen. There are easier ways to do this in terms of engaging. You're always going to want to get permission, of course, if you can help it, because that's what we've seen most often is somebody will put a lot of time with their community into a skate park project, a DIY build, and then it gets torn down. So there are elements like that where it's going to be sort of like a traditional advocacy effort, but also very much a community hands-on build where you learn skills. But to your point, implementing these accessible approaches as you're learning and building, Jason, in your area, you're already doing the work to learn about this stuff. Thanks to to everybody here and to Goodpush for making this happen, you'll be able to take this information and implement it into your build. And when people say, why did you do that? You can explain it to them. And so it's up to the leaders on this chat and everybody else doing this type of work to implement these things. But clearly there's more information needed and some slight standardization. The risk is if you standardize too much, we get cookie cutter skate parks that don't serve everybody. So there is that balance of what are the minimum standards you can apply for functionality, capacity, and accessibility and challenge without completely standardizing the skate park.
Cool. Thanks, Alec, and thanks for opening it for people to give you their input on that at the skateboard project. Someone reached out to me, Matt Jans in Canada, who's been working on accessible skate park development and has a funny story. I think it's.
I don't know. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if it's a funny story, but maybe a success story. So I'm working on low vision and blind skateboarding in Calgary, Alberta, and one success that we had from our last project was the CNIB, which is the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. They actually included our adaptive methods catalog into their general O&M document, their general orientation and mobility document. So I'm wondering if that's, hold on one second. I just need to take my headphones off. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if, I'm like super proud that we got included into this general organization's language in terms of how they adapt just everything. So in this document, there's like adaptation for getting into buildings and how people access schools. And then there's just this small section about skate parks randomly, just because they included us.
That's
So I'm wondering
cool.
if people, like if anyone in this chat has reached out to organizations that's like non-skate organizations that support their disability group in terms of being an ally for advocating like the Paralympics.
That's a super good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just thought I'd share that success story. I thought that would be cool. And then if that's an idea we can carry forward, like CNIB is a huge supporter of us and they're going to be a great tool, I think, in the future. So.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, what's up, Dan? What's
hey,
up, Dan?
Is Curtis there? Hey, is Curtis there too?
He should be here. I think he might be like listening in while doing school too, because he's like,
Gotcha. Yeah. Awesome.
That's
that's a huge point. Yeah, that's great.
Totally. Amazing. I'm writing all this down and saving it in the chat. So Mara had her hand up for a really long time, so I want to give her a chance to speak, and then we're going to wrap up in a couple minutes. So maybe Mara and then Andrew, and then we will wrap this up and continue later, another time. We can't hear you, Mara. You're on mute. No, still cannot hear you. I don't know. There we go.
Hey, can you hear me now? Okay, sorry. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm one of the co-founders of the Young Skateboards. We are a small skateboarding brand based in Glasgow, woman run. And what we've been pushing from since we started was like more inclusive skateboarding from like an intersectional point of view. So this is super interesting. And I think as well, if there's more need of visibility of adaptive skateboarding, not just within the skate park, I believe, but just in the culture of skateboarding, as there was a lack of visibility for like women, LGBTQ, and like I feel like there should be more visibility for like disabled skaters to be like in the media or just in the brand or whatever it is, because I think like if there will be more of that as well, people will understand from a business point of view that these are the customers, these are the people that are also want skate parks that needs for them. And so therefore, like sometimes I feel people don't design things for some people just because they don't think they they skate or they are involved, because they don't see it. They see just what they see and they design for them. So what I'm saying is that like, we are very interested as a brand, but just in general, to understand how to make everyone more visible into the skateboarding community. So just putting that out there to like, if anyone wants to speak to us and just share their experience, and I don't know, just would like to be involved from a different point of view, that it's not the skate park, but it's just maybe like the culture and like the brands and whatever. It's we will be super keen to speak to everyone or just hear what you guys think. So just the Young Skateboards. I'll put my email or something, so if anyone wants to chat with us, we will be super keen. Thank you.
Yeah.
David, did you want to respond to that? I saw you put your hand up just when she was speaking.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I think the visibility is a very important point, and maybe that's something it's a good time now to mention that, since a lot of people from the skate community are here. So if there are chances to put more adaptive skateboarders, WCMXers into commercials, into your social media, magazines, or whatever, because I think what we need is inclusive visibility.
Yeah.
Not only you have a WCMX content here and adaptive skateboarding content here, we need it in the whole community, and it would be great.
Disability mainstreaming.
Yeah, if you just put it into your magazines and social media content, it would be great.
We try to like have a really broad, like when we share about skaters, trying to be as broad as possible. But I do believe it's just not about sharing on social media, it's to actually create active project which involves different people, as from like skate videos and like I'm super keen for like collaborations and, you know, just like new things and like which are interesting. And it was really interesting when I don't remember who said, like, when you make it accessible to disabled people, you also make it accessible to everyone. Like you don't need to change. You're like,
yeah, exactly.
just like you know what I mean? Like you don't need to add, it doesn't need to lose anything either from any point of view. It actually just adds value, because we just been like, I'm almost a designer from a different point of view, and like I'm an interior designer, and like I'm super interested in these for interior design, and it just like how, yeah, just making it accessible and inclusive, it does adds value and it creates something new that has never been made. But I believe people don't think that there is need, because people don't see, like, they just see like a very small percentage of like the users, and it's not just a fair perception, I believe.
Yeah, and I think there is a shift that's starting.
Oh yeah.
You know, Felipe had to cover a Thrasher, you know, like,
yeah,
we're starting. There's a magazine called Skateism. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
That's all about that too. And yeah, I mean, my sponsor, Real Skateboards, has been huge with that, and just really making me feel like one of the team, and having photos in the major magazines and stuff like that, and doing ads in Skateism and all that. So
yeah,
that is a really important part. Just getting more people just to see us. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really good point on the visibility. I just wanted to pretty much wrap this up. I know a lot of people have to go. I saw Andrew has been waiting patiently, so maybe Andrew can have the final comment or question here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, this is so exciting to just see this meeting take place. So I agree with the last woman who spoke on just making the accessible needs more like out in the open and more public. I work for Skate the Foundry. We're based in Philadelphia, and we do just like skateboard programming and instruction. And it seems like there's so many of these other programs happening throughout the country, and if these sort of functions can, you know, be more accessible for people with disabilities of, you know, all kinds, then it becomes more normalized in skateboarding, and then we see more of it throughout the country, throughout the world, and then that makes it just more plain to see and accepted and understandable for folks who, you know, just don't really understand or empathize and see the needs for the accessibility issues. I also work for the residential care facility for people with disabilities, for intellectual and developmental disabilities, and I've skateboarded with one of the residents there. I have a recreation staff there, but my supervisor has told me like a number of times how the safety officer and liability department are very wary of like introducing skateboarding on their campus, and it could be really like be a hard pill to swallow when I hear that. But you know, if that's kind of the perception within that sort of environment, it can be harder it can be harder to like I guess not, you know, feel like I'm making progress. So sometimes I just think that, you know, that aside, don't want to have the last word here if I'm getting all chalked up in my words, but I did want to say, like with Alec, that design needs to be, you know, accessibility need to be incorporated from the design from the very start, and that we need to draw these fine lines with when interacting with municipalities. But just getting these needs expressed out in the open, and having this as a network effect through programming, and even into the other environments, whether you do work in human resources or human services, can be helpful. But this has been so cool. It's awesome to see all these people here. Thanks.
Linda?
Yes.
Wrap it up.
Well, I'm a bit overwhelmed by the discussion and all the people that are here. And like we scheduled the event for 1 hour, and now it's almost 2 hours. And I still see David's hand rising. So I would like to hear what you want to say.
Yeah, I don't know. We can keep discussing forever, but I wanted to say what you could use for an end if you want to. But because I think when I started, or with my accident, it was 12 years ago. And when I started to skate, I was refused at some skate parks. I wasn't allowed to get in. I was kicked out because people are afraid of got a wheelchair user hurt at the skate park. And we came a long way. So it changed so much. Today, skate parks are asking to have workshops there they introduce people with disabilities. They ask how they can change the design. We have this event, so we're on a good way, and we have just to continue. So thank you, everybody.
That's right, man. Yeah.
I can just agree. Thank you, everybody, for taking part, and it's really, really time. But what we are going to do is, first of all, share all the contacts. I think it's also a good idea to share the chat, because I don't know who of you have been following the chat.
Yeah, we can share that.
Yep. And then maybe discuss via mail how we can organize a follow-up. And I totally agree with David that we need to collect more data about how an inclusive skate park has to be like, and then discuss more how we can take this guidelines into action.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Then I can just say thank you, everyone. And let's stay in contact, hopefully.
Yeah, and we'll share the slides. I saw there's a question there. Yeah, thanks everybody. And have a good weekend.
Yep. And yeah, Talia, of course, we're gonna share everything.
Yeah.
This is not like there's nothing that has to be kept secret. That's something we are not experts about. You are the experts, and we just want to help create a worldwide network. And yeah, I don't know, just from my personal point of view, I just hope that one day it's going to be standard that skate parks are inclusive, and that you need no funding to build an inclusive skate park, but just that every skate park is inclusive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Good last
Beautiful.
words.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Fantastic.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, I
thank
love
you
seeing
very much.
everybody. Later.
Bye, Oscar. Go have breakfast.